So Ronald Koeman today met with Joan Laporta and the rest of the Barca board. Actually, they're meeting right now. And they're meeting, I'm assuming, to decide his future, whether he's going to stay a second year, whether he's going to stay any further than that. And today's going to be the first real indication of what Barca and the board plan to do in the near future and long-term future. I don't really see them giving Ronald Koeman a huge contract and signing on to him for the next, 3-4 years. But I could definitely see them giving him another year, and that would sort of signal how they see the club's financial situation, how they see the club's ability to buy players in the transfer market, how they see the club's ability to navigate these muddy waters at the moment. And, the meeting is going on right now, so by the time you hear this, the results might have come out, whether Koeman is staying, leaving, staying for a long time, maybe nothing gets resolved. But the fact of the matter is, this leaves us with questions. Does Koeman deserve another year? If you were Laporta, do you like what he's done? Do you think that he can improve another year? Does Koeman deserve another year? And that's sort of the crux of the video. That's sort of the crux of the discussion, because I think it's a really interesting discussion. I think Barca's main priority should really be to start a new sporting project as soon as possible. That would mean hiring a new coach who can guide you through the future. I'm not totally convinced that Xavi is the right option for Barca, just because we do not know. Just because Guardiola and Zidane worked out. An example people like to cite when bringing up former players who are good. Right? You're seeing this with Real Madrid at the moment too, with Raúl. Just because those guys worked out does not mean that it's always going to work out. Just because players had a lot of hype and a lot of support from their former teammates and coaches does not necessarily mean it's always going to work out. But I do still think Xavi looks like a good option for Barca. It's just a bit of a risk. But what Xavi would bring, in my opinion, for the club would be a clear direction in the sporting project. Would be a clear direction of where the club is trying to take things through signings, through the use of the academy, through how they're going to play on the field, and how they're going to manage their operations. When Xavi was contacted in 2020 to replace Ernesto Valverde, he said he wanted to bring Jordi Cruyff and Puyol with him for the sporting director. And Bartomeu at the time did not want that. So it's very clear what he thought of the club and what he thought of where the club was going to go. And what he wanted it to be. He didn't want it to be this club littered with the La Masia and the Cruyff influence. He wanted his own influence on the winning. And in my opinion, Laporta should understand and should know what helped him out in his first term was that the influence from La Masia, the influence from Cruyff, the Dutch school, but more importantly is having a sporting project and sticking to it. Having an identity, getting the right players, right managers, and the right idea, not only to be loyal to the Barca style, but also just having a style and idea and not freestyling as you go, which I believe is kind of what happened with the Bartomeu run for the longest time. So does Koeman deserve another season? Let's kind of go over it quickly. I mean, if you consider where Barca was coming into the season and they told you, you're going to fight for the league basically until the end, basically. You're going to win the Copa del Rey. And most importantly, you're going to have moments. This is important. You're going to have moments where you play with real heart, real intensity, and real mentality on the way to winning that cup. And the reason why I say that's interesting is because in the Champions League, that's exactly what they've lacked. They've had everything else, but they've lacked that mentality and intensity and fight, which usually the one who shows it is the other team, who exposes Barca, whether it was Roma, Liverpool, Bayern, just to name some of the more recent examples, or there's more if you go back. If you had said those two things, Barca fans would have signed up for that automatically with blood. They would have said, give it to me. Because of the disaster that the club was after the A2, after Messi wanted to leave, after having no transfers coming in, after losing established veterans who were not replaced. I think Barca fans would have signed up for that in blood. But with that being said, while that's really interesting and you consider where they're coming from and you look at it holistically, from above, judging the entire season, sure, it looks like a success. But then you look closely and you think, Koeman's stubbornness in the first half of the year with that 4-2-3-1 might have ruined their chances in La Liga, from putting up such a terrible first half. If you watch those Barca games, there was a lot of individual mistakes that were not his fault. A lot, and I mean a lot, like comical, grade school errors that professional team should never make, and especially a team of that level should never make. But the fact of the matter is that 4-2-3-1 with Busquets in that double pivot and not knowing what to do with Messi, with Coutinho, with Pedri, Griezmann, not knowing what to do with anybody was really, really bad. And you know you had at times a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-2-4 really with Braithwaite on the wing, and it wasn't good and it was stubborn. It took him a long time to change. I think if you consider his subs, it might show he's a bit of a mediocre in-game manager, and this is important. You know, when you think about how most of his subs became bringing on a lot of earlier in the season he would bring on a lot of forwards and be playing like a 4-0-6, 3-1-5, 3 whatever formation 3-1-6, and then later in the year you'd see games, you know, where all of a sudden the three center backs that started the game are all on the bench and everything is just reshuffled, it's rejigged, but it makes no sense. You know, some managers can do that and get it really well. But in this case, it didn't make any sense. Right? And that was the theme throughout the entire season. That his subs made no sense. The team would lose any semblance of shape when he would make his subs. And that's another problem. I mean, he's been a manager now for about a decade, you know, a decade plus. And he still hasn't learned how to make the right substitutions. And that is a problem. I think another weakness with Koeman is his treatment of young players. So Ricky Puig never gets to play. You know, he's not a young player, but Miralem Pjanic also never gets to play. You think about a team with no midfield depth and they don't play at all. You know what? You know why? So then you have Pedri, an 18-year-old, having the most appearances in the club. Nobody appeared for Barca more than he did this season with 52, which is insane to think about. He's 18 years old. He was playing in the B level just a year ago, and now he's starting every game for Barca. It made no sense. And that was one of the things that also grated me while watching Barca about him was he refused to rotate. He refused to use the depth that was in the squad. And that's a bit of a problem because I think it stagnates the development of guys like Ricky Puig, obviously, and you waste Pjanic, who could give you minutes. You could see it with guys like Trincao, where he wouldn't come on unless it was a really bad cameo. And once he started playing more, you could see a little bit more skill. But I think it's really hard for him to get going in such a difficult situation if you don't give him real chances and consistently. I think you saw that with guys like Mingueza, who would get benched if he made a mistake. Araujo, who got benched once after making a mistake, although he was more of a constant fixture. And just the power he gave to the older guys. I mean, he didn't have enough character, I think. Not enough character, and not enough just intelligence to sort of manage the minutes and rotate as effectively as he should. I think another problem, while Koeman, it might feel like he brought back a lot of character and attitude to Barca, you know, what it really was is that it was a team that, and this is where it's important, listen, fighting for La Liga until the end would have been very successful at the beginning of the season. And it would have been very successful at the end. Losing in embarrassing fashion to Granada when you have a chance to go top, that is embarrassing. The way that this team capitulated and gave up at the end, that is embarrassing. And that makes me wonder, for all that we say that the team overachieved, and for all that we say that the team found a way to, you know, fight for more than we thought, you know, ignoring, you know, the humiliation in the Champions League to PSG and Mbappe, without Neymar, by the way, who was a huge part of their success later on against Bayern. You know, when taking all that into account, yeah, great. You know, we fought till the end. But when that end came, what happened? You know, where was that fight that they showed in the Copa del Rey? Where was that rotation? How come the team didn't look good at all after the international break? How come against Atletico Madrid at home, you're sitting in your own half the entire first half? Against that, like, listen, Atletico Madrid won the league, and congrats to them, but this isn't, you know, this isn't Barca from 2015 that you're playing. This isn't Bayern from 2013 or last year's Bayern. I mean, or something like that. You know, like a great team that's attacking that will attack you till the end of the game. You know, and you're at home fighting for the league. You know, your only chances shouldn't be an Araujo goal where he was all offside, or Dembele a header of a half chance, or Messi almost pulling a bunny out of his hat early in the game and scoring one of the best goals of his career. That's not what it should be. So all those things considered, and I'm sure there's more. I mean, personally, he was always complaining to the media, always blaming the squad, and the squad's not great, but he's always blaming the squad. He refuses to take any blame. All these things I think grated on me, having seen it all season, and makes me wonder if he really is that leader for the future. I think a good case for him would be the way that whenever the team was showing up, after they lost 0-3 Juventus at home, then they make a switch to the 4-3-3. After losing to PSG at home 4-1, you make a change to 3 at the back. That had different variations. I think that was really good. I think the run the club went on after the difficult start was really, really good. One of the underrated things I think he did was after they lost in the Super Cup to Bilbao when Messi got sent off and whatnot, I thought that was that for the season. I thought they were thought whatever goodwill they had built up, whatever happiness had come from, from improving your level and improving the way you're playing, getting better results after a terrible start. I thought that was all cooked. I thought it was over. And the team got it back after that Super Cup, and then they embarrassed Bilbao 2 months later when they played in the Copa del Rey final. They had some really good results in the league. And even that second leg against PSG, a couple things go right. Maybe they're putting way more pressure on them towards the end. Maybe they're up 3-1 at halftime or something, and things look really different. And at least the scoreline doesn't look that bad. That it really was. And I got to give them credit for that. I think the team was playing some really nice stuff. Some really nice soccer for a long part of the season. And that's when you consider that it's a squad that has very few players in their prime. Has a depleted midfield. Really, there's only like 3 or 4 options. Really, when you think about it. A team with aging center backs. A team that dealt with injuries to its best goal scorer outside of Messi and Fati. A team that had no forward that could either finish or expand the field, running behind the defenders, open up space for Messi. And you saw that in the big games where Messi, you could put 3-4 guys on him and you don't care because you're not worried about Griezmann running in behind. And if Dembele runs in behind, you're not worried about him shooting because that's not going to work. A really, really young squad with the guys like Serginho Dest having to play a lot, Araujo having to play a lot, having to club guys like Elijah Moriba, having to play Pedri a lot. These are really, really young guys. And Fati started really well, but Fati had experience, and Fati might be a talent on a different level than these other guys. And it's unfortunate he got injured. But he had to deal with all this. I think Ter Stegen had by far his worst season since he's been here at Barca. And not only his worst season, I think physically he looks bad, and mentally he looks awful. He looks finished mentally, that it makes me wonder if he really has a future in the club. I think he managed all that really well. And I think this is a really good coaching job that if you compare it to what Everton's fans say about him or Valencia fans say about him, it's better. Now, do I think he's a long-term option? I'd probably say no, just because, and I said this earlier, but I don't think he's the right guy to lead Barca's sporting future. This last season, we're going to look back at it as a waste because the club did not move forward. The club got rid of a couple of the guys they wanted to get rid of, like Vidal, Suarez, Rakitic, but none of the real, big dogs in the locker room that come from the academy. And I'm looking at you, Busquets, Messi, Piqué, Jordi Alba. Those are the guys that have to go. Right? You can't waste a season where you have transfers like Wijnaldum. I like Depay, but I'm not a big fan of the Wijnaldum one, because Koeman wants them. I know they're quality players for free, but Koeman wanted them even last year. Wanted to pay money for them. We can't be making these signings with a guy in mind who won't be here long term. And to me, before any signings, before any decisions, the most important thing that has to come out of this week, and I'm saying this week, is that Barca needs to come out of here with a sporting direction, with a proper project where Laporta and the board are in complete agreement with the coach and the direction the coach wants to take it. And the sporting direction, the sporting team, has to be willing to work with the coach and the president to realize that vision that they have, to execute the plan of where they want to go. And I personally, I just don't think Koeman is that guy to lead that. I think he was really unlucky at parts this season, but I do think with the going got tough late in the year, I think he showed his ass a lot. I think the squad showed us a lot, and the squad rebuild is important no matter who the coach is. But there are better and worse ways of going about a squad rebuild. And I think a squad rebuild needs to be led by a proper sporting project with the coach of the future. The squad needs rehauling, obviously, and they let down Koeman a lot. But I think Koeman showed the worst sides of him as the season was ending. I think he showed his inability to make the proper subs, as we mentioned, his penchants for blaming the players and blaming everything else but himself. The bad faces he makes from the bench to guys like Mingueza when he makes a mistake, or Trincao. And ultimately, you look at a guy who just doesn't have that much character. We need a guy with character who's not going to play Sergio Roberto every single time. Who's going to play Piqué every single time, right? How come Langley and Ter Stegen had by far their worst seasons confidence-wise? How come Messi couldn't hit the ball around the first half of the season, right? So how come Trincao, Ricky Puig were never able to build any sort of momentum? Because you wouldn't play him. How come Jordi Alba started every single game, even though Firpo was really great against PSG and showed that he could play center back and left back? I think he has a lot of deficiencies when it comes to really actually building a program and building a project for the future. And that's why, to me, he wouldn't be my choice. I guess we can talk about what my choice would be in another video, but I have my doubts on that as well. Anyways, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think. If Koeman deserves another year, I would say no. By the time you listen, the news might be out, and this video might look stupid. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, and thank you. Appreciate it.